Go ahead. Okay, welcome back from our recess. I think everybody has been able to get back to his back, so we will continue with this regular meeting, workshop meeting. Item number 13 is discussion on second renewal agreement with Zia Engineering and Environmental Consultants for professional engineering services for Main Road number 1, additional services. And is this you, Ron? Or Eric Boyda?
Yeah, I can take it. Mayor Crawford, Councilors, this is Eric Boyda, the Water Resource Director. Even though we are done with the Main Road number 1 additional services work, there's still the warranty period for the project. So this is just making sure that Zia is under contract with us if we have any warranty issues with the project.
Is there any questions of Mr. Boyda? Okay. We have a suggestion of consent.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, we're on mute. I'm confused. If there's a warranty issue, why do we have to be under contract with them? Shouldn't the warranty, they just come in and take care of it under the warranty?
We've discussed this. Go ahead, Tim.
Mayor, Councilor Coughlin, this is the engineer, and the warranty is issued by the contractor themselves. So this is just to make sure that our engineer is under contract in case they need to help us evaluate it. There's no consideration.
No money at this time.
So if we get into some of those situations with finger pointing, I got it.
Yes.
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, also, we'll be beginning the closeout process of this EPA grant. If we need any additional information, documents, et cetera, from the engineer, we'll have that all.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, consent? I bet old Coughlin was having a fidgeting fit. You couldn't get that mute button undone fast enough, could he?
I got 2 different mics I'm working here.
Okay. All right, awesome. Number 14, we shall move on. Discussion on change order number 3, IFB number 2020-002B with Cherokee Enterprises Inc. for Alto 2 Well H 1979-S7 improvements, requesting an extension of 30 days to October 23rd, 2020. And Mr. Boyda?
Mayor Crawford, Councilors, so we're hopeful that this is the final change order for Cherokee Enterprises for this project. It's just an extension of time only. There's no increase in funds for the contract. The 2 reasons for the 30-day extension, we had some difficulty shutting down water coming from the Alto Reservoir pump house because of some valving issues that caused a delay in them to be able to connect into that line. And so they requested a 3-week delay extension because of that. And then there was still some residual complications with delivering the vaults for the meter connections that resulted in an additional delay of a week. So we're asking for a 30-day extension. Everything looks on track to be finished within this time frame.
Any comments or questions from anyone? Would this have anything to do with the level of Alto Lake?
You mean it decreasing a little bit?
Yes, I've just had, I don't know, 3 or 4 phone calls, people asking.
It would be one of the contributing factors.
Okay. Okay, any, if there's no questions or comments, how about consent?
Yeah.
Okay. Item number 15, discussion on appropriation of funds for purchase of materials for the construction of a beach at Grindstone Lake in the amount of $30,000. Rodney?
Mayor, councilors, first off, I'd like to apologize because I made a huge mistake when I was putting together this agenda item. So I had, with the provided quantities from the engineer who was planning this project, I converted during my trying to get together an estimate, I converted the cubic yards to tonnage, and I made a huge mistake. And so the estimated number of $30,000 is way up. So I had worked with John Commander, utilizing those specs provided by the engineer. John solicited a couple or some bids for materials. Again, they came back drastically higher because I made an error in the conversion from tons, from cubic yards to tons. One estimate came back from Roper Construction, or a bid came back from Roper Construction at 160,000, including GRT, and another came from AgTech for 144,000, including GRT. And so, like I said, that's much higher than the 30,000 that's included in the agenda item. So I've been speaking with Karen. I think she was thinking about going back out and trying to, I'm not sure the correct term, but doing a multi-bid award, and which could possibly save us from the higher bid. It could save us up to $30,000. If you take apart the two bids and separate them, the total would come out to 131,500. That includes GRT. So the revenue that we were anticipating, or that I was anticipating utilizing to fund this purchase, was the revenue from the grindstone operations, which includes concessions, boat permits, parking permits, and as of like a week ago or two weeks ago, the revenue coming in was roughly around $200,000. Each year we take out a portion of that revenue for the following year's operating. And so if you took out $40,000 for 2021 with operations, and you split the revenue between the parks department and the watershed at 70-30, from that 200,000, it would leave 112,000 for available revenue for projects, which is a shortfall of the 131,000.
But nothing personal, but just checking your math. You had somebody help you come up with that figure? I'm just teasing you, Rodney, but. So, is there some questions of Rodney, some more comment?
Rodney, it's Susan. I'm sorry, Tim, go ahead. I was just wondering, so if we went, so we would be using this year's money that we made off of Grindstone, so there would be no other projects then. I mean, we would use all of that money plus a little bit, right?
That is correct. And just for as a point of reference, I mean, I think until the master plan is completed, we really don't have any projects that we were looking at implementing. I'm sure, or that's the plan, is once we do complete the master plan, that we would have some additional direction on where for improvements. But at this time, I really didn't have anything else that we were needing.
Okay, thank you.
Ron, wasn't the fencing or the additional level to that wall going to be coming out of the revenues as well?
Gosh,
Yeah,
can't recall where, I mean, we had a balance, Tim, from, the last year's revenue of about 27,000. And the cost of the walls, I think, was 31, and we made up the difference. Gosh, I've slept since then. Right, we made up that $4,000 difference out of another line item that I'm not, or.
Right, but after that hall was built, then we came back with 27,000, I think, put in fence, so we decided rather than doing fencing, doing another level, so we wouldn't hit the 30-inch height limit or something, so there's gonna be an additional cost to bring in another level to that wall.
Right.
There's still gonna remain the fencing over on the side by the tables or something like that.
Yes.
That's half of the initial cost of the wall. So where did those funds come from? I thought those were gonna come out of the operating funds.
So they were, Counselor. So again, from the FY 20 balance, there was an available balance of $27,000. And so that's where those funds came from, was from the last year's WIBIT operations.
For the wall or for that additional?
For the wall and the
Railing.
the rail.
Okay.
So Rodney, what I would suggest is if we could get with Judy, the accounting department, or Karen, whomever, and get all those figures nailed down solid so that we can look at them in black and white.
Okay.
Because I know my memory's, is questionable and foggy on those things as much as I think it would be an awesome addition to the lake. And I think I'd start we get to start selling bathing suits down there, and I think I might purchase one of those. I think it would be a good attraction, really do. So anyway, if you could do that for us, I think it'd make everybody more comfortable with making a decision on that. Does anybody else have any comments?
That'd be a regular item then?
Yeah, regular item. Okay, thanks, Rod.
You're welcome.
All right, item number 16. Discussion on remodel, expansion, and building addition of Village Hall in the amount of $1,301,239.50, including gross receipts tax through Cooperative Educational Services, CES, with White Sands Construction. And this goes to Mr. Sana.
Mayor, before we move on with that, I want to make just a couple of notes before we get into that discussion. You know, this budget, this is budgeted. It's right about the budget amount that we have available for the Village Hall model. But this amount also includes the additional wiring that we had budgeted for separately. And that's basically the IT and get all the wiring in the side group moved around as well. In addition to that, I'm trying to think now, there was another item, Ron, that we had added into this. It wasn't normally part of White Sands agreement, but
It was well, we were gonna take all the mini splits and had somebody come and get those. Is that included in
we haven't included that, but we'll include that in the agreement if that's salvage to owner.
the?
But the other change that we made in this there, initially we had the customer service that was going to be in the community development department, and we changed that to upfront where the drug windows at and within duties and old office. And then it also includes we got the bathroom away from the office.
Yeah, that was a big plus. I appreciate that. There's nothing like having your office.
President Council, it also includes, having the IT, room, upstairs with the old boiler room that's at, the wiring here, so that's going to be remodeled into the IT, mainframe also.
Okay. So Judy, Judy. So what you're saying is, Tim, this money's already budgeted?
That's correct.
This 1.3 million.
Judy's up there?
I don't see Judy.
Aaron's calling her right now.
Okay, because I know y'all probably have some questions, want to know where she's got that line item at. So I'd like everybody to line up their question before Coughlin has an opportunity.
Well, the only question I have is I haven't seen the plans, so I don't know how we're talking about remodeling Village Hall.
Okay? Do we have those?
Yeah, we have those.
It's in
We
the-
ask everybody to come in and sit down. Okay. Ron, you wanna grab those and take them in, show them to the councilors in the office?
Yeah, both of that.
This is one of those that we send out the emails on, making them available, and hopefully y'all are all getting them. I guess I need to be more diligent and make sure that you're receiving them and that you understand what they are. But it was just so that if you wanted to look at the plans, they were available, and we'd set up a time or whatever you needed to do to look at them and go over any questions. We'll get those to you, and then you can have times, and anyone else that if we've been derelict in getting those to you, that you can review them, and then we'll, during this next week, you can ask any questions, and we'll get the material to you so it's available for next council. Judy, the question I'm asking is the 1.3 plus for the Village Hall remodel. That money's already in the budget, and where is it at?
In Fund 320, that general capital improvement.
Okay, Fund 320.
One of the things I was explaining, Judy, is, you know, the IT, all the IT upgrade stuff, once we move up the mainframe over here was budgeted separately before, and the 1.3 was separate. So we've actually added this into the project, so it's not gonna happen. I think we're asking somebody else to do it,
Yes.
but we've added it into White Sands contract.
And then we still have like 700,000 available for equipment.
Okay. Does everyone hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
It should be on the monthly report in that fund. If you look for the project titles, the budgeted amounts are there and what we spend each month are there.
Okay. All right. So we'll have this one on regular.
Yes.
Okay. Go to number 17. Discussion on remodel of a new radio station building project located at 2811 Sutterick Drive in the amount of $138,609.15, including gross receipts tax, through Cooperative Educational Agreement, CES, with Rymark Construction. And I know this is the abatement on asbestos has been considerably more than
Mayor,
what we had hoped.
this year is just on the.
Right, it's on the remodel, but we've already spent money on that. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's, I know this is, the fees are getting up there on this remodel.
Mayor Hopper, members of the council, we did receive a revised CES cost proposal from Mymark. The new cost is about $124,500. Most of that we'll have it for the regular meeting. We'll have that finalized cost estimate on that. So it was lower than the original one.
Okay, and so will we have a drawing of this? Because we're talking about, and I haven't looked through all this one, but it's, I know we're doing some demo and all that stuff over there.
This is just for working on.
Right, so what about the demo? That's the point I'm trying to get across.
That's a separate project.
Okay, but we haven't done that yet. So we priced it out.
No.
Yeah.
On the other project that we're looking at, right now we have, we're doing the abatement on that, that's what it's $25.
And, but this is
just the,
garage. That's the
Yes.
point I'm trying to make, this. We keep throwing all these numbers in here for a building that we kind of jumped on. And then we've got the abatement, it's on the same property. Okay, all this goes on, but this is strictly the garage. So, you know, where we're talking about, and I mean, I know it seems excessive. I know that we talked about some plumbing being installed over there, things like that. John, do you have anything to add to it?
Well, on the contract, it showed that they were running plumbing in the building. I'm not sure that it got hooked up to the sewer line. So we may have an additional cost on that.
But
And I'm not sure if we want to hook it up under the other building until we got the walls on there. I don't think that's included.
Because I know I just had some comments that, you know, this is getting, it seems like more expensive than what we had initially thought it was going to be. So I just want to make sure everybody understands it's broken down, that we have the abatement. That's gone more than what we had expected. And then this is just strictly the garage, and then we'll still have the, whatever we're going to do on the remodel for the rest of the building.
Mayor, once the abatement's complete, we can actually do the tear down, in-house. We don't have to, you know, bid that out, and we just have to haul the material off.
I noticed today that they had the sheet off of the windows.
Yeah, that just means that they're finalizing the abatement, we have to cover that.
Right.
Actually, it's,
Right.
it's something, but,
Right.
so once that's complete, then we can do the tear down, and then we can get an architect to start working with us to do, the remodel on the building itself.
Okay.
And on the house. You know, this is just the garage.
So what would I like to see, Ron, is, you know, that little drawing that we had from Stan K?
Yeah.
If we could just include it, I didn't see it on here, was it?
Okay, Mayor Crawford, I will get the stamp to get that final drawing, but we'll include it in the final package.
Okay, because I think the building set, the way he did it was set up pretty nice. You know, and this comes back to that we've got to make this radio station an integral part of our communication efforts in the village. And I have been contacted by several people in town, and we start purchasing ads, and so we need to work on ad pricing, sales, and all, and those things too, so.
I think Rodney's ready to go on that, so.
Okay.
you should-
I know,
Rodney,
what's her name?
Karen,
Jasmine, I know we've spoken with her before, so. But these are things that we're looking at, so we'll have that on there. Is there any questions? Besides, we need to find out, Ron, about the hookup to the main that Councilor Cornelius just spoke of. Is there any other questions? Okay.
Are there gonna be extra costs as far as this garage renovation for the radio station? So I see down in things that are exclude fiber optics. So things such as our communication wiring, are we gonna have to, that can be on top of this construction, or is this gonna be kind of a turnkey, ready to go in, plug in our equipment?
I'm not sure, Counselor. I'll have to check into that. I know that we've spoken with Windstream Kinetic, and they're taking it to the building. But as far as getting it in the building, I'm not aware. Are you, Tim?
Jeff was working on that there, so.
You want to ask Jeff? He's coming.
I'll
We'll get Jeff in here to answer that.
Mayor Crawford, maybe, what happened, itemized, the contractor, the itemized.
I thought you had that itemized already uploaded, Ron.
I can get them a preliminary one. I found an error just on the bill C tax amount, so I didn't change that. It was lower tax rate. So but I can have a copy for everything.
Okay.
To the item.
We have Jeff Ferguson in here today. Jeff, on the price for the remodel for the garage where we're going to put the radio station, does it include fiber optics and all the hookups inside the building, the electrical and everything?
I'm unsure of that.
I know the electrical, because Stan had a an electrician that was putting together a bid on that, but I don't know about the fiber. Do you?
There might be some equipment, and I don't know exactly. Instead of hooking up your regular Ethernet via regular switches, the fiber has different equipment, different interfaces that, we have it. At the station we have right now, we have it, but I believe that equipment belongs to MTD because we are running off their fiber. And we probably have to invest in our own equipment for that, but I can find out how much that equipment would be. You'd like with you.
Yes, I would, please.
I would.
And then think it through the whole process that if we look at the itemized list, we'll get with Ron and we'll look at it. And we walk through the completion stage of that to make sure that we've covered all those little bases so that we have that information for the council next week.
I also want to reach out to Pace Engineering and make sure we have the correct figure for the move of the radio station. When we talked about moving it from where it is to the temporary location, as opposed to moving it where it is to a permanent location. I want to make sure those numbers are the same so we don't get hit with any surprises.
I think we need a whole budget breakdown of everything.
I'll reach out to Pace today.
But you know, you guys still have the tower issues and stuff like that as well.
Right, and I'll have that, we have that report, the 24-page report from Pace Engineering about the stuff that needs to get done. That would be a different contractor, completely, and I'll have that information in better detail. I'll work on it in before the meeting this week.
And I'm sorry, guys, I should have had that stuff figured in first.
Well, Mayor, the one thing that I was concerned with, and Jeff, alluded to needing some additional equipment, but I'm worried more about wiring. Making sure that we've got wiring that's going to be installed since the walls are going to be open, run whatever chases we need, so that we don't have, the brand new building and then all of a sudden we're running cables down the outsides of the walls and things such as that.
Right.
And is all that going to be included in this pricing, or are we then going to have to either contract with somebody or do that wiring ourselves?
Okay, we'll find that out too, because I know, Ron, that was one of the things we were waiting on from Stan Cape, but was that just electrical supply to the property and the panel inside, or was that actual build out on a wiring diagram?
That was not, it was the wiring, and they're talking about the wiring for the HVAC. That wasn't included in the proposal, but I will get a final drawing from Pancake showing all of that.
Okay.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
Stan Cape and the engineer from Pace Audio sat down for an hour or more and talked about this. So perhaps those, as far as the console and the microphones and all that, perhaps those will be taken into account when you see the electrical plans, because I know they had a discussion about that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're bringing the wire up to the console, all that's included, but that's the electrical part of it. But the fiber stuff wasn't addressed in this bid.
Okay.
Which it shouldn't be much. If it's brought to the building, because that's what Stantec was gonna do. They discussed it and then it would just be hooking it up inside. So I'm more concerned with all the electrical outlets and,
Mainly just the control room.
everything we need in the building.
Yeah, that's
For the coffee pod.
that's in this plan.
That is in that plan.
Yes, the electrical part of that, not the fiber.
Okay, so that will be,
We did have a breakdown there, but I thought it was provided, but I guess one has some revisions for that.
and we'll get all that. All right, does anyone else have any questions? This obviously will be on regular item. Okay, and here's we'll move on to 18. This is my personal favorite. And Samantha, do you have anything you want to add, or is Justin on the line?
I'm gonna cover this one there.
Okay, Tim's gonna do it.
Mary, you know what spreads faster, the COVID?
Yes, rumors and Ruidoso. misinformation around?
You know, that, one of the things, Mayor, you know, first of all, I think I need to, you know, applaud the village and the leadership for our efforts in trying to reach out to the public. And, you know, as you read through these comments, there's actually a couple of people that recognize that, you know, we're making a greater effort to try to reach out, educate people. And even as I worked on this, you know, COVID application for this COVID relief, you know, I think that's one of the things that was clearly demonstrated. And even in the presentation, as I was preparing for the municipal presentation for best practices, you know, when you look at what we have done with COVID and trying to reach out to the community and actually inform people, there's been some, you know, great efforts beyond what other communities have done. And I think that's why we've been selected to demonstrate the best practices for the state of New Mexico. Unfortunately, you know, as we got started with COVID, I think we talked about it early on. It becomes an information crisis, and it's just a different way of doing business. When I look back at this, at the survey for Midtown, when it originally started, the first survey really went out and it was gauging people's appetite to see whether we wanted to conduct a study. And the way that some of the information got out, and then the way that it was twisted and turned and spun, you know, provided different opinions along the way. So, you know, I think that it's been a difficult project, and I think we've seen this type of information crisis occurring with other projects that are going on, even the LEAP survey. You know, one of the big things that we saw with the LEAP survey is we're getting ready to roll it out. We would meet with people and said, you know, whatever you do, don't put affordable housing in the survey. You know, that really wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
You know, so the first survey that went out was really, you know, trying to see if there was an appetite to conduct a study. That's what that first survey was really focused on. We brought that information to the governing body and they said, yes, let's study it. And then, you know, we brought the information to the council, the traffic diet that was proposed. And one of the things that, you know, I think we could probably done a better job is explaining what the traffic diet is. And as I think back there, you know, to me, you know, this study has a lot of different elements to it. And we should really been looking at it as a menu and saying, you know, this is something that could work. This is something that, you know, probably isn't going to work, and, you know, kind of pick and choose. You know, and so as we went back to present to the general public and develop a second survey, we really wanted to try to get them to go in and do the study, to inform themselves on what the traffic diet was all about, and then come back with recommendations of how they could pick and say, well, you know, I think this is a good idea, this could help or whatnot. And, you know, in that time, there were a few people down in Midtown that said they didn't like the 3-lane idea. And they developed a passion for that. And you got to applaud them on their efforts. They went out and they conducted their own survey. And I think the mayor and council got a copy of that survey, and it overwhelmingly showed that there was not an appetite for 3-lane. And they had, you know, a vast majority of people saying, no, we don't want 3-lane, no, we don't want to increase traffic on Rio, we don't want to increase traffic on Greenfield. And the 3 individuals that actually went out and conducted that survey, I called them individually, and, you know, Ron was with me when I called them. And I applauded them for their efforts because, you know, I think, you know, the governing body really wanted us to reach out and engage the community and get their opinion. And these individuals came up with their own objective and they got involved. And they demonstrated that. But when you read through the comments that they actually had, there's several good points. And several of those good points that came out that are consistent with things that I think we need to be aware of. The traffic that already exists on Greenfield and Rio, pose safety problems as it currently is. I think we need to be aware of that. I think we need to be aware of the inefficiency of our signage and how it directs people in those areas. You know, those are for good things that came out of the survey that was conducted by those three individuals. And they talked about opportunity as well, that there is opportunity to improve some of the current conditions. You know, the other thing that they brought up is parking. And I think they've been talking about parking for quite some time. And they talked about, you know, additional parking, and I even had one of the individuals say that him and his father provide more parking in Midtown than what the village does. And, you know, so that was interesting to me, and I think as we move forward, we really need to create that as a goal, and how we can create additional parking. One of the individuals that I talked to said, well, we let people know that you guys are gonna be decreasing parking. I said, well, that wasn't correct. This plan actually increased parking, but that's okay. I said, what are the other issues that you saw come up in your survey? And, you know, one of the things that is a big issue down there, a big concern, is the crosswalks. You know, our plan, you know, proposed some additional crosswalks on the side streets and you know, where we can actually achieve that. And one of the individuals said, yeah, but we used to have them, they didn't work, they took them away. Well, with these crosswalks, there was additional traffic signaling that occurred that would help slow traffic and help people cross the, you know, safely cross. One individual that I talked to, I said, a couple of weeks ago, I was actually riding my bike down in Midtown, and somebody came out of the shop next to yours, and I saw you standing out on the sidewalk, and they walked right in front of me, and I had to, you know, I almost hit him in my bike. I said, I saw that you saw that happen. And I said, it was right in front of quarters. Everybody thinks that speed hump is a crosswalk. And I said, it's a dangerous area. So there was some validity in the surveys that they conducted. You know, just like any other survey, people can challenge and say, oh, you know, that wasn't valid, there's no methodology, it was wrong, or whatever. But there was validity in it. And I think we need to consider that and consider what they're saying. And what I see that they're saying is, no, they don't want to see a 3-lane going through there. Okay, that's fine, but as we look at the comments and we move to the survey, the second survey that was conducted by the village, we actually see that you know, there was a tremendous amount of people that were still against the 3-way. To me, it was obvious that some people really didn't read the information before, because some of the comments that they're making really don't tie back to the plan. And some of the arguments that they're having are actually addressed in the plan. And then there were several positive comments that actually liked the idea. Right now, I don't believe the appetite in the community is to go to a 3-lane, but they do like some of the ideas in there and the safety factors. And I think we just need to make sure that we read through it. There's a lot of people that, you know, responded. Over 172 people spent time responding to our survey. Some of them business owners, some of them just residents in the area. And a lot of the information that they're bringing up are around you know, economic development, opportunities, the parking, the safety issues on Wingfield and Rio. And I think, you know, the overall efforts is bringing some of that information to the forefront. So I printed those out, so if you want to take and read, and then, you know, maybe we can have some discussion, you know, strategic planning sessions on how we can incorporate some of the ideas that have brought up and help bring some resolution to the issue.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's some beautiful lipstick you put on that pig right there. That is beautiful the way you, man. And they all live happily ever after. I'm gonna start having you write all this stuff. But no, I agree with you. And you did make the extra effort, as did a lot of our employees going talking to businesses in Midtown. And it's only through that communication that I think you were able to really see the positives in that. And you're right. Many people heard it through word of mouth, through someone that just heard what they wanted to hear initially and then formed an opinion, and it passed like wildfire. And so once again, we haven't ever been able to control the narrative when we're looking to move forward. And so I applaud you for that, but I would like to know who has more parking in Midtown. You don't have to tell me, because I know it's not true. We have the two big parking lots on the south side and then the one on the north side down off of Eagle. And I know that we would like to have additional, believe me, as a building owner, property owner down there, I'd love to have more. So,
Well, Mayor, it was just one of the individuals that, engaged several different people, and, he was telling some of the, people from the Main Street Association that he was totally for it, and he was telling them, turning around, telling us that he was against it.
yeah,
And so, kind of hearing that, and we don't want to put people at odds with each other.
no,
And then, some people, and, I think, you probably know, have done extremely well through this, and others are hurting.
right.
So, this whole effort is trying to find a way where we can actually help those businesses that are hurting down
I was downtown, this last week and went in, to purchase something, and, the lady told me that it was the council that had initiated this, that the Midtown told them, Midtown Association told them that it was the council that initiated it. We did not initiate this.
No.
I have been extremely frustrated because a lot of the comments is, shut up and just open up the town. You're not, make them wear masks. Well, we have gone over and above all summer, having 3 days a week downtown with our employees and volunteers handing out masks, which a lot of the businesses that I went into to say, would you like some masks? They were selling masks. They did not want my masks. So
Wow.
they've been selling masks. And to tell us that, they can't spell my name, yet they say they don't ever see us down on the street.
They don't know who we are, because the one lady that's the biggest complainer, I've been buying dog treats from every week, until last week, and I went somewhere else. But I thought she knew who I was. I talked to her about the project and whatever, but she never mentioned to me all the things that she's seen on emails and all the other efforts. So a lot of those people, a lot of times I'm not walking around, you got your mask on, I usually have my glasses on, or a ball cap or something, or my beautiful new little fedora looking hat. And so people don't ever bring that stuff up to me, to my face, except for the last couple of days I've been almost assaulted verbally for asking them, are you having a nice day? And they were, until they read that we were gonna turn their street into a freeway or whatever. So it's just comes with the territory.
I know, and honestly, I have a lot of, I worry about those same things, about just 3 lanes, because I do go downtown quite often. The traffic has been unreal, that I'm afraid that the middle lane become a, get out of my way, I'm passing you anyway, like it is on Nugent every once in a while. Rio Street, it's hard for me to understand how we could have, people going Rio Street when it's so narrow, and there are, people are walking back and forth from the parking lot. Wingfield, I think would be a little bit better, but I think that there's a lot of things that I have a lot of questions.
Well, and that's what we're trying to do, is get
I
answers.
know.
And that's the whole point that we've been trying to get to people, because they have the same complaints, gripes, groans about these things that are already existing. And we would like to have solutions to fixing those or remedying those problems. So that's really what this has turned into, is more of a fact finding.
Yeah.
But my initial, and I've been wrong on this already, I was told that I was wrong, and I was, that I thought this came from a group of businesses. We got together, took it to RMA. RMA then put it together, and I thought presented it to lodger's tax, and then to us.
And the only part of that, we did, start with a couple of businesses, and discussing it with, Main Street Association. Some of the people on Main Street overlap into lodger's tax. But I don't, recall that it was ever went to lodger's tax.
Okay.
But it did come as a recommendation from the Main Street Association.
Okay. So there you go. All right.
Well, Mayor, I do think that there's some validity in some of the
Absolutely.
issues that were brought up, and, you know, some of the individuals that were saying, you know, Greenfield's already, dangerous, I can't even walk in that area because my kids almost get run over. Well, that was the point of looking at that section from, Center Street all the way over to,
The candy store, Sutter Street to Wing, I mean, to Center.
trying to provide alternative. And maybe one thing's not the appropriate thing, but at some point in time, maybe we need to look at widening or other ways of slowing people down as a community that way. And a lot of the comments that I saw, that, you know, they weren't complaining about the visitors, the community, they were complaining about the locals. And, you know, the locals speeding and passing people, and, you know, through Lane Road and things of that nature. And that's what's unsafe. So there are all valid concerns that need to be addressed, how they're addressed, even on Rio. You know, currently there's 2 lanes. And because of the narrowness, not just because of increased traffic, but current conditions, so that they're currently unsafe.
And people parking on it, the dumpsters. I mean, there's a lot of problems on Rio Street that we've been trying to work on for some time. And I guess we didn't frame it properly. I know we didn't frame it properly to where people could understand that it was options. Like Tim said, it would have been better presented as a menu that people could look at and make comments on aspects of it.
We just have a lot of different types of people going around telling different stories. And I think, you know, like you say, you have one person saying something, the next person says a little bit different, and by the time it gets around to town, it's a totally different story than where we really going.
And let's not forget that when this was brought to me, when I heard it, it was that the DOT had an appetite for it. And so we actually made a phone call right then and was told that, yes, the state had done this in other parts of the state, and that it was called a traffic diet. And that this was brought about by COVID. And that some of the aspects of this were clearly temporary. And the initial study was just done on that, and then it opened it up to Wingfield and to Rio. Is that fair? Okay, so this will obviously be a regular item.
I believe it's just, we'll continue on as a discussion there. We're not proposing any action on that. What I am proposing is that this information that we have gathered and some of the concerns be addressed through strategic planning.
So is that after we discuss this next week that we would make a recommendation to do just that?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Discussion, item number 19, discussion on blighted property located at 2511 Sutter Drive, formerly known as Reflexology. And I believe the man of the moment or the hour is Bobby Simpson. Come on down, Bobby. Tell us the good news, buddy.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we have some good news related to this property. The building used to be called Reflexology, and the address is 2511 Sutter. This property, the council had actually voted on and taken action on ordering the property owner to take certain actions. That was quite some time back. We've had some delays associated with various different things. We decided to move forward recently with pursuit of getting this property into compliance, and I'm happy to report that they've made substantial improvement to the property. And by stating that, what has actually occurred is all of the outdoor merchandise that was once on the property has now been removed and either placed, I'm sorry.
Yay.
Yes, yeah. So the outdoor merchandise has been removed. It's either been placed inside or removed from the property. They've also removed the signage from the business. It's no longer in business. There are some blues and other things that eventually will be addressed, but they've met two of those requirements that the council had ordered. The only requirement that they have not met is the vacant building standards. And with the council's permission, I'd like to work with the property owner and potential new property owner. As I understand, it could be changing hands as early as before, not this council meeting, next. I hope that that change does occur, and I look forward to working with them and getting that property used appropriately for this.
Okay, that's awesome. I know we've had to work on ordinances and the BLAT ordinance and clean and lean and all those other items. And I thank you, Bobby, for continually going over there, running those things down. And Samantha, to you too, for the letters and the constant talk that we've done. So I feel like that we're making progress. And I know the folks in Midtown are going to appreciate that, because that's a nice building that eventually could be of great service. So does anyone else have any questions or comments for Bobby or for Samantha?
Thank you so much. It just, I had to go by it 3 or 4 times to make sure that my eyes were seeing the correct, no stuff outside. So thank you so much. With that being said, what about the other blighted properties that we've been talking about, like houses that have been burned, that have been sitting up for 2 years? Are we going to start doing stuff with those again?
Go
That
ahead.
is correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're right. I was going to tell you to go ahead because you're the one working on that. I know. Could you go ahead and give them a quick update just on the 2 specific ones that we're working on, so that anybody watching and listening can understand that we are actively working on the Old Mill? Would you give us an update on that one?
Mayor, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
Hey, Zach, would you, please go into Samantha's office and take care of that, Cummings meeting with Samantha for me, please?
Okay.
Is that,
We had another meeting and it started at 11 that we're going to be late to. So anyway, go ahead, Bobby, real quick.
In retrospect to the Old Mill property, recently, within the last week or so, we've actually had to change the contractor, and there's been issues with the prior contractor, personal matters, and that has now changed over hands to a new contractor, and we're going to get started on that project. He anticipates that the weekend after this upcoming major weekend that we have, to begin or restore movement on that property and begin repairs to that property. So we do have some movement on the Old Mill property, as well as some of the others that we've been looking at.
Okay, very good. And then real quick on the other one, I know that Can't Stop Smoking was covered up, and I know that tarp has deteriorated greatly. It's becoming unsightly. So where are we at on that one? I know that he has some sort of conclusion on that to this point, because he has cleaned it up. But can you tell us where we're at on that one?
Samantha, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. That will be before planning and zoning this afternoon, at 2 o'clock. What I have recommended is to discontinue their temporary conditional use permit for the mobile food vending, as well as put the conditions that they obtain building permits within the next 30 days and start construction. So we'll see how the planning commission, if they follow my recommendation today.
Okay.
What
I'm gonna
about,
hop off here though.
Okay.
what about the burned house in Juniper Hills subdivision?
Which structure is that? Do you remember the road name?
I think it's the property we spoke to last week, remember, with the one in the wheelchair, remember?
It's up behind Farley's, Bobby.
Del Norte.
Thank you.
I went to Del Norte. That's actually scheduled. That's the next one that I intend to put before council if we can't get any action moving forward. We had delayed some of our actions due to travel restrictions that were set by the governor, but we're now moving forward with a lot of these cases. And that is actually one of the ones that's at the top of my priority list and should be coming before council next if we can't get something done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Bobby. So this item will be put on, do you guys want to, it's just discussion, so.
Mayor, we, intentionally wanted to make sure that people are aware of this, so
Regular.
that we keep it on regular, that way people are, yeah.
Aware
Yes.
of all the hard work that Smith and Cody, I don't want to get Cody out there. Anyway, Bobby, you on that. Okay, item number 20 is discussion on threats by Lincoln County Commission to increase property taxes on short-term rental properties located in the village of Ruidoso. This one really is an irritant to me. Is Zach available or is he in the other meeting?
I asked him to come back then, so.
Zach, are you there?
No, we went to that other meeting.
Okay, he'll be back shortly, but they have, through the Freedom of Information Act, requested that we give them contact information on all of our short-term rentals within the village limits. With the proposal, I'm sure, coming to increase the tax rate and change it from residential to commercial, which we already have in our ordinances, backed up by previous cases to be residential.
No, you have.
See, what's the other, item they added on there? He's just walked in and he'll talk to you about the breach, we believe, in, the sunshine laws. Okay, we're talking about the county.
Yeah,
So would you like to take over, please, sir?
sure. So, the mayor and I talked last week, I guess it was following the county's, county commission meeting. And, the mayor was concerned about generally or overall just the policy of taxing, residential properties or classifying them as commercial properties in our residential, short-term rental overlay zone. So we just got to looking at the record of the county's meeting and, they had their meeting and they went into executive session. And then they came out without any discussion and took action to have the county manager do an IPR request. And it failed the first motion because it was to have the manager, request inspection of certain records related to, lodgers taxes and to have that request published in the newspaper. And that motion died. And then immediately thereafter, they did another motion to have the manager,
Is that not just the manager, the assessor as well?
okay,
So,
okay, both of those, staff members of the county to IPR these lodger tax records. And this time they left out the part about publishing it in the newspaper. And that time it passed. So there were just some, some transparency issues that apparently they don't want this to be publicized. It's a big deal to the mayor politically because, these people in our community that could be potentially taxed at higher rates, which would potentially drive up the market for certain things. And so we just got to looking at that and I said, Mayor, I don't believe that they followed the Open Meetings Act based off what I'm seeing. It's not 100% clear, but there's no exception in the Open Meetings Act to close an open meeting to discuss lodgers or IPR requests or property taxes or things like that. I think you guys are all familiar.
Yeah, pending litigation, property acquisition, water rights, stuff like that, but.
And I was told, and I wasn't at the meeting, but I was told that their assessor was in there, and by all appearances, they were in there discussing property taxes.
And this isn't the first time this has been brought up.
Yeah.
They've instigated this before, and they've asked us to do their work on collecting, identifying, and whatever short-term rentals in the county, and we've said that we would, since we spent money on the software and have invested heavily in it, that we would work out something with them. Of course, they would have to pay for the service, but this is their way around all of that, it seems to be. And then with them publicly saying, hey, we don't want it in the newspaper, we just want to send the Public Information Act information over to the village and they'll have to produce it. So, you know, it's just this way. I want the public to understand it. I don't know, I see it as taxation without representation, it seems to be the intent. They've shown this before. It could affect one of our big industries here, short-term rentals, which goes for our lodgers tax, as you all know. But just the mere fact of being able to change a piece of property from residential to commercial after there's already some foundation in law that it's been upheld that it could stay residential and you could do that. So there's just a lot to this that we can get out in the public and talk about, and I don't think they deserve to sneak it through. And that's just my opinion. So I want to know what y'all thought.
Mayor, if I may, you know, one of the things that, you know, on the property tax, I definitely don't agree with that because there's been, according to the Phil's decisions already made that those are residential properties. And from a land use perspective, reclassifying them as non-residential starts to affect our land use and it's overreaching from the county into municipalities, authorities. So I definitely don't like the overreaching, the reclassification of properties within our jurisdiction from the county. I think that's totally inappropriate. In addition to that, Mary, the fact that they have done a public information request on taxpayers is opening up some privacy issues for the property and you know, the property owners and the realtors that are doing that type of business now are being provided an opportunity to see some unfair competition occurring as a result of their actions. Because now if that sets precedents, it starts opening up some of that proprietary information to other people, which, you know, I think we've all dealt with grocery receipts tax and privacy behind grocery receipts tax. Well, this is just another form of obtaining information that they look at the families on. When the current county manager initially called me on this lodgers tax, and they were considering this, I was more than happy to go over and make a presentation, talk to them about our success. But then they didn't want to invest it in the program. So, and then they came back and they tried to, get us to help them, find out which taxpayers were paying our jurisdiction and they should have been paying theirs. It's clear when you read the statute there that the taxpayers in Ruidoso have a direct connection to us and the customers. They're the ones that are collecting the tax. The property managers and the property owners has a permitted property and remitting the tax to the village of Ruidoso. It's not that the village of Ruidoso is going out and collecting tax. And that's where the misconception is. It's a relationship between us and the property managers. And the county has their own authority under state statute to impose a lodger's tax that allows them the means of obtaining the correct information with the people within their jurisdiction. So, overreaching into our jurisdiction to try to gain that information, I think is an incorrect way of going about it. They should be working with the taxpayers within their jurisdictions to obtain the information that the statute allows them to obtain. So, I think from my position, I think that's where there's quite a bit of overreaching occurring and problems that they're creating in their approach.
Mayor, can I also say that in relation to the Attorney General complaint, that it never ceases to amaze me how dramatic those things become. Everything that the Attorney General does, it does not have to do with crimes having been committed or big drama stories. You simply, when you file a complaint like that, it's just, you're calling attention to the Attorney General one of whose jobs is to make sure that local governments are following the sunshine laws. It's a civil matter, and all they do is review the record and look to see, and they may, send questions to the county and clarify whether or not the Open Meetings Act was followed. The worst case scenario is that it wasn't, and all they do is say, go back and see. You got to go back. Anything you did that was not in compliance with the OMA, you got to go back and do. It's not like anybody's going to go to jail. I've just seen it blown up in such a way in a defensive posture, if you say, oh my God, I can't believe that you would do this. You have every right, you know, in our form of government, transparency is supposed to be the whole foundation of our government. That's why we have sunshine laws. And it's not bad of you to have called attention to that. So in the future, as this develops, you know, you guys don't need to feel defensive about the fact that that this is out there. You know what I mean?
Right. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
So what I see on this, yes, there's different sides, but yes, there's the procedural that they're going down the wrong path and the way they're handling it isn't necessarily correct. The other part that I see is wanting to then reclassify residential properties as commercial, which is a higher tax rate simply because they have a short-term rental permit. Now, there are some properties that it truly does operate, I'll call it as a business. I mean, that's all they use it for is short-term rentals. There are others where people are buying their second homes up here, and during the times that they can't use it, they're renting them out to others to use as a way to cover some of their expenses. So now you're going to take somebody's second home, which they may occasionally rent out, and reclassify that as commercial. What's the next step? What prevents the county to then come back to everybody who has a home occupied business, permit, you know, running, they sell stuff on eBay or Etsy or a gardening service, but they're running it out of their home because they've got a business license allocated to that residential property. What's next? Come to those people and say, we're going to reclassify you as a business property to get more property taxes out of them. I think it's a slippery slope and it opens up a whole can of worms. I think the county is sorely going down the wrong path to try and generate some more income. And I think that not only people within Ruidoso, but Ruidoso Downs, Carrizozo, Capitan, Corona, everywhere else that has a business permit and is running a business out of their home needs to be concerned.
Well,
that could really go big time.
Well, I agree, and I'm surprised that we haven't heard anything from realtors. You know, that they're not concerned about that. So we've talked to Sean yet, you know.
There, you know, I think the realtors were concerned, they expressed some concern last year, but as they were looking at it, from my understanding, they're looking at it, try to find somebody to challenge the accessory process, and nobody would come forth. I think that the issues that we're bringing weren't just the reassessment of property, and I think it needs to be taken on from a municipal perspective as well, of how it's affecting land within our community. And not just a challenge of the reassessment.
Okay? Anyone else?
Yeah, Mayor, this is John. Back last year, when this came up, there was some question about standing, that we might not have it because we didn't own any of these houses. But if they're violating our code, would we have standing, and could we take them to court at this point?
Standing's it's fairly complicated, but the research that I've done to date, I think because of that ordinance, that is what would give you standing. And I didn't even realize the ordinance was there until I was rereading it a week or 10 days ago. Because I had the same question in my mind, whether or not the village did have standing, and then I read that in our ordinances. I think that opens the door for the village asking the court for a declaratory judgment on whether or not the county can do that in your zone that you decided that you declared to be residential.
Is that what standing means?
It means you have a right.
Yeah, the right, if you're impacted or. Anyone else?
Oh, it's Jack. I just had a question. As regard to last, I guess,
freedom of information act and don't like it. What is our response to that?
I'm sorry, say that
I mean,
again.
I guess because I was following the line and the discussion, and it seemed like part of the discussion and the requirement of the county came out of a meeting, may or may not have been legally formed. So do we just comply with the lobby's role, or do we ask for a say, or what do we do?
No, we're compelled to go ahead and give them the information. And we just want to make sure that the public's aware of it and to find out if they did violate the Open Meetings Act. Correct?
And so as we discussed it as a regular item, most of all of that would become public.
Yes.
Mayor, in addition to that, I thought Zach, we're gonna talk about, maybe asking for, on this property tax issue, asking the court to take some type of action.
Which is where I left off my last comments, is that I believe that because of that ordinance, you probably have to do a shot at standing. And I'll do a lot more research between now and Tuesday. My initial opinion is, yeah, that ordinance does give you standing. I mean, if you pass ordinances that somebody challenges you one way or another, I think that you would have a right to go to the district court and say, tell us what's the bottom line here legally. But yeah, that would require a declaratory judgment where you go and ask the court to declare your rights with regard to your ordinance that's being basically voided by a county action. So
Mayor, and Zach, is there an opportunity to either rewrite our ordinance to add some privacy into the information as it pertains to the lodging tax?
in my research over the last couple of weeks on this issue, I actually did find one in a small town in Mexico. I can't remember where it was, but they had it written into their ordinance. The lodger's tax, there seems to be an opening in the Lodgers Tax Act as well as in the Special Public Records Act that some more privacy could be written into that. So, yeah, which would just require a amendment to your ordinance.
Okay.
But as the forms that they were requesting are today, I didn't find any exceptions in state law or in our ordinances that would have that would have been provided any exception to the Special Public Records Act.
Mayor and council, as I was engaging, various individuals throughout the community working on these permit issues, that was one of the things that several individuals had expressed to me is, as I register, is this information going to be public? Are people going to be able to obtain my private information? And, they didn't like that. And I think that's a deterrent for a lot of business owners to say, they don't want to be disclosing what they're making to individuals. They don't mind disclosing it, like gross receipts tax to the state or, the authorities that have taxation. But even as we bill the gross receipts tax here at the village, we have to sign, privacy agreements not to let that information out. So this is just, I think there's a lot of proprietary information that's being compromised because of the county's actions.
Okay.
And so Tim, to follow up with that, we decided to have, there's no reason, we don't have, under the Open Meetings Act, a way to close this meeting to discuss this because the litigation one is for threatened and pending litigation. You guys, the whole purpose of this was to bring you guys up to speed on the issues.
Right.
And if you want to close the meeting or have it discussed in an executive session next week, there would actually have to be threatened and pending litigation. And a plaintiff, a government body that's a plaintiff, has a right to close the meeting to discuss strategy, even though there's not, even though they haven't shot the cannon over the bow or whatever to kind of, which is kind of what this is. But if you guys want to discuss litigation strategy or whatever, you would actually have to say, well, if we got to do it this way, we got to do it this way, and that would be for
That would be a closed session. And at
So you
this
can put it
point,
on, you'd have to put it on your regular session to discuss this again and then say, well, I think that we need to go into an executive session and discuss
what we're
regular litigation.
and as it stands right now, all I've done is send a letter to the Attorney General.
That's a
asking him
completely
to-
separate thing.
And that's all we've done there. And if they come back and determine that there was a possible violation of the Open Meetings Act, then we could file in court for,
No,
oh, we can do
those,
that now. Those one and the same?
those are completely different issues. You
Right.
took action as the mayor because you're concerned about what's going on. You weren't taking any sort of action on behalf of the entire governing body. Whatever happens with that investigation
Doesn't matter.
happens. It doesn't
One
matter.
that's not effective.
Because all they're going to determine is whether or not the Open Meetings Act was followed. And if it wasn't, I mean, we already gave them the information that they requested, so it's not even, there's really no even remedy.
So what we should then, in fact, do is go ahead and put it on the agenda to go into closed session to discuss.
Threatening
If in
litigation,
fact
which would
we're-
be a declaratory judgment action with regard to our rights on our ordinance to,
Well, Zach, and just one thing, when it pertains to the, open session information that they did conduct, the remedy is that they have to go back and discuss that in open session.
Yeah.
And any other issues that they didn't discuss in open session. Because obviously we went into executive session, had some type of discussion, then came out and made two separate actions. So what's the rest of that discussion that happened behind closed?
no,
doors?
you're right. Yeah.
They-
And as soon as I said there's no remedy, I wish that I could have pulled those words back into my mouth. But
Yeah, obviously they did have a discussion in
Yeah.
executive session in relation to these items. And if they're talking about additional taxation and trying to, create additional, taxing and bringing in extra money, that's not protected, they should be having that open session. So the public know what their stance is, why they're doing these things.
Did you send a letter to the commission as well?
No, we just sent one to the Attorney General and they will get a copy of it from the Attorney General.
They will get the public notice if they're gonna have those type of discussions. The public has a right to know.
So that maybe we could be there to talk about it.
Right. So, I think that we will have this on the agenda and then we'll, well, I guess this would just be included in, threatened or pending.
this would be back on your regular agenda and you guys decide.
And then we'll go into closed session to discuss that, as long as we have threatened or pending listed on the agenda. Okay, so we'll have threatened or pending listed on the agenda, please now. Well, y'all covered a lot of ground today. I'm real proud of all of you. Staying up with it sometimes is very difficult for myself, and that's why I get corrected all the time.
Mayor, there's still a couple different things.
Well, what else is there? See, once again, what is it?
Is there any items that have been moved to presentations or?
For the
public
regular,
hearings? Yes.
for the regular meeting. There are a couple of items, let me pull it up real quick. Of course, under consent, we'll have the approval of the minutes, and then, there is a request to schedule a public hearing, and that's on an appeal that has been, filed by Tyler and Tamara Stuckey. And of course, the request for the public hearing would be for the October 13th regular meeting. And then the other item is the continuance of the public hearing from the August 8th meeting, and this one pertains to the appeal by Mr. Jesse Thompson. That's what we have so far.
Okay, and we're still looking for, people to volunteer for the planning and zoning. And we need to make sure that if you're recommending them, let me know if you've talked to them. Because I got some names from some people and I thought some of them were kind of strange, and when I called them, they were not interested at all. So, but we would really need someone that's a tough board You have to have a lot of knowledge and whatnot, so we're gonna need some help on that one. Is there anything else?
Mayor, one of the things that, and I'm not too sure on what our recommendation is, how we're gonna handle the grant application for small businesses.
Yes.
In the email that was sent to us yesterday, notifying us of the award, they instructed us that they would be sending out further instruction today. I haven't received anything from DFA yet. So we're not exactly sure on the processes that they're gonna recommend. We did provide you all a copy of the application, and then also, in that, there's an exhibit one that has a recommended grant application that will go along with that. But, as we look forward, we may be making a recommendation that the committee be formed to help administer or award the grants. So, that might be an item that we add on. There's an ad hoc committee that would be advisory on the granting of the CARES grants for the 1.17 million that we did receive that would go to small businesses. So they haven't released that information to us yet, so we don't have that information to make the recommendation. But as soon as we do, we'll make sure that we get it.
Okay.
Now, our proposal there, we did state that we would be making awards up to $20,000. Yeah, that was included in our proposal.
Anything else, anyone? Okay, well, we thank you for your time, and have a good evening, good weekend. And like I said, get out to the grocery stores and do everything you're gonna do today, tomorrow. And then be courteous, kind, thoughtful, compassionate. Wear your mask. And we'll see you next week. So no more business. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.